Review some selections that you can make in Photoshop. If we want to affect any change or do anything with any of the pixels in our photographs, we have to make selections. If we want to change the color, if we want to isolate it from the background, if we want to remove an element, it all requires us to select the pixels that we want to make the change to. And there are a lot of different ways of making selections, so this is intended to just review a lot of choices that you can make. And it really depends on the kind of imagery that you're working with, what selection will work best. Sometimes it takes a combination, so I'm going to show you that as well. I have a file here with several different layers of photographs, and we're going to do things to these. I'm going to try to narrate all my keyboard shortcuts as well. So the first one we're going to start with is the beach, which is this top left corner, and I'm going to Command plus to zoom in, and then touch the space bar to get the hand, maybe that's too zoomed in, and try to move around and navigate to this corner of the composition. We're going to begin with a lasso tool, which you can find that here in the toolbar. If you click and hold, you can see all the different selections hidden underneath this one. The lasso tool is kind of best for just a general, very quick grab of a shape or an area. I'm not the best at being really precise with my mouse as I draw with a tool. So I don't really use the lasso tool for, say trying to go around the precise edge of this star, for example. I'm going to hit Command D to deselect. But it's great for just getting a big general shape. So I'm going around my star, and I made a couple mistakes on purpose. I can show you. So once you make a selection and you close, I say close the loop, so you go back to where you started. It's going to create the little marching ants that tells you where your selection is. And so this is, if I made a change, this is the area that would be selected or changed. I cut off a little bit of my star here. I'm going to move this out of the way. And so I can add, and I can also subtract to my selection once it's made. And so these keyboard shortcuts we use a lot in selections, so if you can remember this. Hold the Shift key to add. Sometimes it will automatically add, right? With the lasso tool, for example, I see a little plus next to the cursor and the lasso icon. So I can click and simply add. And so it's kind of built to be able to add as you go. But if you don't see the little plus icon, you can hold the Shift key, and that'll give you the plus icon. And you can just grab a few more pixels, always closing the loop to add to your selection. If I want to subtract from my selection, so maybe I don't want that pebble in there, I'm going to hold the Option key on my keyboard, or Alt, the Alt or the Option key, and that will, and then I make a selection around what I want to cut out, or from my bigger selection, and so I can subtract, right? So what I'm doing is I'm kind of cutting away and getting a little closer. And this doesn't have to be precise, I'm just showing you how this works. So I've got a wobbly selection around my star, and I want to get rid of it. I want to use the sand background, let's say, for a composition that I'm building, and I don't want a big element. I'm okay with the little shells and stones, but I want to get rid of this big element because I want to bring my own big elements in. So I'm going to go up to Edit, Fill, and I could fill it with a color, like I could try to grab the color of the sand and fill it solid, right? Photoshop has this other option which is kind of cool called Content Aware. So in Contents, I can change that to Content Aware. And I have my opacity at 100%, color adaptation is checked, blending mode is normal, and I can click OK. And when I do that, it's going to fill it in with pixels that are sort of neighboring it. It's trying to imitate the pixels and the image that's around the selection and put it into the selection. So it does a pretty good job. If I deselect, Command D, now I have kind of a blurry, you know, if I zoom in, you can see it's kind of blurry. If I zoom out, maybe you don't notice that much, but I could do something to work with that blur if I wanted to make it, you know, make the illusion a little better. I can work with a couple of tools. There's the spot healing tool, which is really good for like little spots. So let me show you that. We'll review this one again when we're looking at photo editing a little deeper. But if I choose a spot, that doesn't work so well because it sort of leaves the blur around the brush shape. I could get a softer brush, but it's not helping with the blur issue that I noticed. So I'm going to use the CloneStamp instead. And I'm zooming in so you can see. The CloneStamp works like a brush, so I can get a hard brush or a soft brush. I'm going to work with a hard brush, or maybe in the middle, somewhat in the middle. And then my brush keyboard shortcuts for changing the size, so I can always go up here and change the size, right, and the slider. But I really like to visualize the size of my brush, so I use the brackets on your keyboard. So the left bracket's going to make it smaller, the right bracket's going to make it bigger. And this will be really helpful when you're doing any kind of painting work or any kind of masking with the brush, which we will do. So I'm going to get my brush to be about this size. And then with the CloneStamp, you have to give it kind of a destination that it's cloning. And you use the Option key for that. So when you hold the Option key, your cursor, your brush cursor becomes a little like target symbol. And I'm going to choose some sand over here and click. And so now that is loaded onto my brush. And so if I move my brush around, you can see that it's got a little bit of sand on there. And as you click, you'll stamp around. You probably notice that you get a little hairline plus symbol over to the right. And it's basically mimicking what's over there. So look, I got that shell there that's also over here, right? So it's just kind of copying over there. I'm going to undo, Command Z, because I really just want the sand texture to get rid of my blur. So it looks a little more convincing like it's sand. And if I wanted to, I could even like load up. So if I could get a new destination, I could load up this where it looks like the wave or water has created a line in the sand, and I can bring that line around. I could do it over here too. So I'm making a new target. I'm holding Option and kind of making a new target and bringing my my sort of water line around to make it just the illusion, right, that nothing was ever there. There was never a big starfish there at all. So we can do some convincing things with the clone brush if we play with it a little bit on certain textures. Okay, I'm going to stop here and I'll do another selection in another video so these don't get too long.